This program is suitable for general viewing.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very good evening. My name is Feisal Kassim and welcome to yet another special episode of the Live Roll Talk. And tonight we are honored to be joined by one amazing, great gentleman, a friend who, alhamdulillah, has been appointed to one of the most highest offices as Muslims you can ever be proud of. Of course, we made a lot of noise with the previous administration when they appointed someone who was not a Muslim in that, because it really disadvantaged particularly those who are going for Hajj and Umrah and all that. Anytime they face difficulties and challenges, the then ambassador had issues. I'm talking about the ambassador to the great country of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and that is none other than Amb.Ramadhan Ruwange. Assalamu alaikum
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bro. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Salama?
Fiti kabisa.
Bro, mashallah, I can see the glow is all up.
Jazakallah. Your glow is brighter.
Tulia bana, bro. Swahili bana. Others, how are you doing, bro? You're well, you okay?
Alhamdulillah. I'm
Yes.
Grateful
Mashallah.
for the invitation.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, twashkuru, and all is well.
24th of November, we got one of the best news, alhamdulillah,
Right.
24th of November 2023, that you have been appointed as the ambassador to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I mean, of course, this was one of the biggest asks
Right.
Muslim kept on asking in the
Right.
previous administration. We finally got it with you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
How do you position? How do you take it, that appointment?
First and foremost is to thank Allah for the great favor that He has granted us, and He has granted us as Muslims and as young people as well. Alhamdulillah, I'm the youngest ambassador ever appointed, so I don't take it for granted. Na hilo ni jukumu kubwa.
Alhamdulillah.
Secondly is to thank His Excellency the President for granting me with an absolute honor. I don't take it for granted. I don't take it lightly. The law, the Foreign Service Act, clearly states that we should be the embodiment of His Excellency the President. So we do our level best to really try and amplify what he does in Kenya. We try and duplicate it there, in as much as it's difficult because His Excellency works extremely hard. Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
For us, it's a clean and it's a momentous occasion for the youth and for Muslims and for Kenya in particular, because we are I'm serving at a time where Saudi Arabia is emerging from I won't say the ashes per se, but they are really emerging, and they're really pushing a heavy developmental agenda.
And positioning themselves as one of the global leaders or they looked up to.
Absolutely. I mean, alhamdulillah, they've managed to secure the Expo 2030, and inshallah, in due course, they'll also be announced as the hosts of the 2034 World Cup. So it's an exciting time. And we as Kenyans, we're excited to grow with them, and we're excited to share in their Vision 2030 as it aligns with His Excellency the President's bottom-up economic transformation agenda.
Well, I'm looking forward to you captaining us and leading us on that, inshallah, of course, with the support of the administration. So since appointment on November 2023, what exactly have you seen as the main areas of interest between Kenya and Saudi Arabia that you are planning to focus on?
Right. That's a nice question, Sheikh Faisal. First and foremost, we have to, let me put this into context.
Yeah.
We have at least 300,000 Kenyans living in the kingdom. This is probably one of the biggest diaspora populations, Kenyan diaspora population. Secondly, in terms of diaspora remittances, Saudi ranks second, only second to the US in terms of money coming in foreign exchange. So Saudi to the Republic of Kenya is a key partner, and all these remittances are coming primarily from labor externalization. And as you know, I mean, His Excellency has been very unequivocal about labor externalization. How then can we improve our relations? How can we strengthen the bilateral labor agreements in terms of skilled, semi-skilled, non-skilled, all types of cadres? So first and foremost, to answer your question, number one for me has to be leveling the labor agenda. We've been hearing a lot of noise.
I know, yeah, that's what I want to talk to you about, because I mean, successive administration have been trying to discuss that matter and bring it to the fore and trying to address the issue, because over and above having a good number of Kenyans being employed in the Gulf, and particularly Saudi taking the hugest chunk, the biggest chunk, there are complaints about mistreatment of workers and casuals for that matter, not necessarily professionals, but the casual laborers that are going there. You know, we've even had cases of suicide, also people being suicidal, people being detained in the detention camps. So it's really a thorny issue. For Kenyans. At a point, we had a whole delegation traveling there, including the then Minister for Labour, Alfred Mutua.
Absolutely.
So what is your strategy then to try and address this matter?
Thank you again. First and foremost, we need to really, especially when it comes to social media reporting, I think most of the issues have been misreported. Okay. We do have cases, some extreme, some not so extreme, but not all of them are true. So I have to be very clear. And in Islam, we pride ourselves with kullil hakala kalamura. You have to say it, even if it's bitter. So most of the cases that are reported on social media are over-exaggerated, all right? The kingdom has taken extreme measures to do their level best to try and really protect the welfare of external workers. I mean, a majority of the population living in the kingdom is expatriates, either in professional or skilled or semi-skilled jobs. So the kingdom has played their part. On my part, we have to, but then again, we also have to also agree that there are cases. So what I have really tried my level best to do, especially with the recruitment agencies, is to really foster cultural diplomacy. Our brothers and sisters in Saudi need to understand how we live in Kenya, and vice versa. So once the fundamentals are clear, then it becomes easier to build on that. So we've had various dialogues with them. Some of the issues that have been very vocal or vibrant, we've managed to have a dialogue with them, and the kingdom has been very helpful in terms of sorting these things out. Again, in as much as it might be difficult to say, but I will state it then again, because alhamdulillah, you've granted me a platform that I might not get. We have to be, especially as Kenyans and as private recruitment companies in Kenya, we have to be very honest, right? Once we've been given contracts, we have to honor them fully. Our brothers and sisters get to the Kingdom of Saudi, okay? They vacate their contracts. They become vulnerable. They start doing things that are illegal in the kingdom. Then they lose their legitimacy, whereby even as an embassy, we are unable to even trace them sometimes.
So basically the contract is breached?
The contracts are breached massively. People get to the kingdom and just flee their contract. They leave Kenya knowing very well that we are getting to the kingdom just to venture into other unfortunate businesses, okay? And that's the truth, because I've been there for 6 months, and I've seen some of these things. People get to the airport and they leave. They actually call them Kemboys. They get there, then they run away from their contract. But I'm not completely exonerating, as I said, the kingdom. What we are trying to do is we are having proper bilateral discussions. We are trying to really analyze some of these issues. We are telling Saudi that when a Kenyan sister or brother comes there, they have to say work a minimum of 8 hours. They have to get a maximum of 9 hours of sleep. They can only clean, for instance, 4 rooms and nothing more, nothing less. You have to pay them on time and things like that. So it's a constructive discussion. And Alhamdulillah, in my tenure, I believe the noise has gone down a bit.
Hopefully with proper feedback and evaluation mechanisms.
Absolutely. M&E is very important, that we really need to keep each other in check and just make sure that we are holding each other accountable.
We've hosted these discussions here before with several agents and discussed this matter, of course, and I like one thing you said, dealing with each case on its merits.
Absolutely.
Right, and not taking a blanket condemnation.
Right.
But again, as a communications practitioner, I'm coming from that point, and one question that I'm asking is, why is it that we are not seeing you or the embassy or the officials giving us the positive stories that are happening? Out of 300,000 workers that are working there, the cases we've had, let's say they're in the hundreds. But again, we have 300,000. So what is happening with the 300,000? Are they all suffering? Are there people who are working well?
Very good.
Then what is stopping us from then telling the good stories that are happening?
Simply, the good stories are many to tell. And good stories don't sell. It's only the bad stories that sell, right? So especially from a media practitioner's perspective, you'll never, not you or Horizon TV, but mainstream media will never carry the positive stories. We're together. It's only the irate cases, the very, very bad cases, which are even sometimes misreported, that are really, really catching the news, simply because there is a lot of advocacy around labor issues. But there are many positive cases. We have many positive cases from our sisters and brothers working there. We have people who've lived in Saudi longer than they've lived in Kenya.
Interesting.
For obvious
But I'm
reasons.
thinking with consistent positive messaging and packaging of this communication, then I think then we'll be able to change the narrative.
No, absolutely. And just to address that, inshallah, on 28th to 31st of January next year, His Excellency the President will be hosting a 1 million jobs expo in Kenya, basically targeting Saudi Arabian recruitment companies. So we want them to come and see who we are, how we live, right? Where exactly some of our brothers and sisters are coming from, some of their cultures, how we've been raised and things like that. So as I said, it's a give and take. We have to really, really nourish the cultural diplomacy, understand them, they need to understand us, then inshallah everything will
Again,
improve.
just to write on one very important aspect you mentioned, cultural diplomacy. As I told you, we've hosted agents here before to discuss the matter, and one of the things that they say they are doing better or differently nowadays is to probably organize some sort of training that involves language, culture, and all that.
Absolutely.
But again, now, as you rightly put it, it goes both ways. So as the workers are trying to understand their culture, it is also important
for
that
us
they also understand our culture.
Absolutely.
And from my understanding and research of how this business works is that the agency that are operating here, they have another agency on the other side.
Correct.
And I'm just thinking aloud, is it then possible to hold some sort of a conference and bring the agents from Saudi Arabia to come here to Kenya, to visit the country, to see how these people are living, take them, for example, for an urban tour, for them to see the urban poverty, for them to see where these people are coming from. And their cultures.
No, for sure. First and foremost, we've started these discussions in Riyadh and in Jeddah in the Kingdom of Saudi, where we are sitting down with the umbrella body of the recruitment agencies and telling them what our cultures are, because we can't go knocking on each and every Saudi's door, but we are doing our advocacy through the private recruiters based in Saudi Arabia. We're telling them, listen, we don't, this is who we are. This is our DNA as Kenyans, and we need to find a middle ground, because as I said, it's a give and take. You're paying me a salary because I'm a housekeeper, but I'm also taking care of the children, making sure that the house is in shape, and all these issues. And as I told you, inshallah, next year, 28th to 31st of January, we'll be carrying all the private recruitment agencies from Saudi to Kenya, where they will participate in active recruitment. They'll see the mothers, they'll see the fathers of who will be working for them. And I think that will create what we call mahabba, right? And for me, that is very, very important, because you have to, employment has to have a level of intimacy, in the sense that you need to understand who you're dealing with, that in as much as he or she is your employee, that he or she is human as well.
You basically socialize the professional contract.
Absolutely.
Give it a human face.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So just going back to our primary question, because I asked you that the things that you've identified as areas of interest. So we've spoken and at least delved and dug deeper into matters to do with casual laboring and the whole labor industry.
Absolutely.
What else should we expect?
The other thing is, what we're trying to do is we want to really maintain a strong balance of trade. Saudi is giving a lot, but we're not giving back. We as Kenyans are not properly benefiting from that. And I'll tell you one of the reasons. For instance, when it comes to export-import, we don't have, say, direct rights to Riyadh, for instance. So, for instance, if you are doing horticulture, then it becomes a bit challenging to compete with a country like Pakistan or India that does 4 or 5 flights daily to Riyadh. So we're having conversations with the ministry, and we're also having conversations with the National Chamber of Commerce to try and bring the Kenyan businesses to invest in Saudi and vice versa, whereby if you are taking products to Saudi, then you also have products coming from Saudi, so the balance of trade becomes very, very active. Inshallah, in December, we will host what we are calling the Kenya Week in Jeddah and in Riyadh, where we are partnering with the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce to host Kenyan companies in Saudi Arabia. This is who we are, this is what we have, and we see how we can bolster trade.
Beautiful.
So trade for me is very important. The third thing, my brother, has to be FDI, foreign direct investment.
Yeah.
How then can Saudi have skin in the game in Kenya? So we are really interesting businesses in fintech, in IT, in oil and gas, in agriculture, to more or less invest in our country, and it's a mutual partnership. Number 4, which is probably for me one of the most important thing, is to make sure that the Hajj agenda is straight. Okay, we want to make sure that Hajj, and this is what I always tell the ministry, that it's a very rare occasion to have 3,000, 4,000 Muslims percolated in one country over a 1.5 week period. Hajj should matter for us. So for us as the embassy, Hajj is a key aspect, and we are doing our level best. We are working with SUPKEM. We're also working, we are having discussions with Jamia Mosque and all the relevant institutions, Islamic institutions, to make sure that the Hujjaj are protected well. Besides that, we have the softer issues, cultural diplomacy, trying to see if we can bring in a bit of tourism. And we need to understand that the Kenyan embassy was established in 1977. One of the earliest embassies.
No way.
Yes, the building is quite, when you come there, you'll actually see that.
Looking forward to visit.
Inshallah, you're most welcome.
Yeah.
Right.
You've really packed the answer.
Yes.
My goodness, it's really comprehensive. So we'll just try and unpack it little by little.
Very well.
So I was just looking at some stats and some figures.
Right.
Kenya, between the trades are bilateral,
right.
according to Trade Economics,
right.
Looking at live trees, plants, bulbs, and flowers
right.
are taking the center stage, particularly at the end of 2023,
Absolutely.
with a value of around $41.66 million
right.
out of 2023.
Right.
Of course, followed by mineral fuels, oils, distillation, and products.
Right.
Coffee, tea, and spices. This is one of the key things
right.
Kenya is exporting to
right.
the world. We are
right.
known for. But again, in Saudi, I think we're the third largest, like in terms of the hierarchy of the products.
Yes.
Yeah, it comes start at 20.86 million. Yet Arabs are known for coffee.
Right. Very well. That's a very nice question. You see, it all depends on how you package the product. So we have traders or businessmen taking the coffee, blending it in Saudi and selling it as a Saudi product, for instance. Right?
Okay.
So these are some of the things that we're trying to address. But then again, when you look at it from a macroeconomic perspective, as long as they're buying our product, then we are happy with that. Okay. So we are trying to really tighten some, of course, with a lot of care. We want to really make sure that our products are amplified, because it cannot be that we are selling our tea to, say, Iran, then they blend it, then they sell it this other way, you know. So that has been happening, and these are some of the loopholes. But these are some of the economic issues that we are really trying to tackle.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it at 20.86 million compared to other countries like Brazil and Ecuador.
Right.
My brother, I'm sure we could do better in
right.
this one, right?
No,
of course, another matter that a lot of people invested in is the whole issue to do with agriculture and horticulture in the Gulf, right?
Right.
To an extent, some people thought of FDIs, investing directly, investing into these companies, to try and satisfy the Arab market, especially when it comes to livestock and its products, meat in particular.
Absolutely.
Right? Despite having one of the largest dairy farms in Saudi Arabia, Al-Marai, it's still not satisfying the market. So they're still taking more from, they still need more.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of them in this country.
Absolutely.
This industry has really been affected. Other businessmen complaining, you know, we've sent samples, we've sent products only together, and told that we've not met the standards, and we're not giving our products back, we're not giving our money.
Right. And again, that's a fair and a very, that's positive feedback from me, which means, inshallah, we need to work harder. And this is my clarion call to all investors in the agricultural industry. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a caucus for the when we're doing our Kenya week. Let's have Kenyan companies really participating. The other day we had the Saudi Food Show. We only had 2 Kenyan companies participating. We had QMP and we had Avopro. So the private sector needs to really up the ante because we as the embassy, we are there to facilitate. We are there to unclog. We are the midwives.
Yes.
So private sector needs to tell us, this is a challenge that I'm facing, then we can see how we can unplug. I really spoke to almost all companies dealing in agriculture to participate in the agriculture in the Saudi Food Show, which is probably the biggest food expo this year. And we only had 2 companies participating, right? So you can't, the private sector needs to understand that they need to drive the developmental agenda. The government is doing their bit. We are knocking on doors. We are speaking to the relevant people. We are making the relevant connections, but the private sector needs to meet us halfway.
And I hope some of these policies, for example, on revenues and taxes are going to be or can be reviewed, especially for the FDIs. Maybe they can get some concessions, they can get some waivers and all that thing.
No, and His Excellency the President has been very clear on this. And Kenya is open for business. The ministries have been more than willing to have discussions with partners towards bringing investment in the country. So, as I said, it's an open discussion. We'll handle it case by case, because we also have to understand that as a country, we also have our multilateral engagements, our multilateral obligations, especially when it comes to the EAC, East African Community, and the larger Africa Union per se. So these are some of the balances that we have to really
very important. But again, I mean, my brother, just coming from what we saw, the finance bill, both 2023 and 2024, that alhamdulillah, the president rejected the 2024 one. A number of investors were complaining. A number of them are saying it's becoming difficult to operate in Kenya because of lack of prediction of the tax policy. Like, we don't know where we're headed, right? So last year you slammed us with this policies or proposals. We raised our concerns. But again, alhamdulillah, this year we've seen a total turnaround of events, right?
Absolutely.
So my hope and prayer is at least then we can be able to negotiate with this, because the grand scheme of things, the more the investment, the better the economy, because it's going to create employment and jobs and business opportunities and all that, right?
Absolutely. And Sheikh Faisal, that's what we are all about, and that's what His Excellency is really driving. When he speaks about a broad-based government, it's all about bringing all sectors on board. His Excellency appreciates more than ever that there is power in having open dialogues and open discussions and borrowing ideas from each and every sector, be it the religious sector, financial, cultural sector, and things like that. So it's a renaissance for Kenya, alhamdulillah. And alhamdulillah, Kenya is stabilized and Kenya is ready for business. And especially for the audience who's watching from, say, Saudi Arabia, who's willing to invest, we are your first advocates. We can easily guide them on what needs to be done. And if something needs to be unclogged, then we can really, we can actually speak to the MDAs, the ministries and development and departments in the government to try and do our level best to make sure that, because as you rightly said, it's symbiotic. They benefit, we benefit, so alhamdulillah.
Beautiful. One other thing that you mentioned was about the whole Hajj process. Oh my goodness, people have been complaining, bro. People have really been complaining from facilities that are given, from equipment, from the support. Both from the government, the Saudi government, and our government. You know, but mostly the blame usually goes to one, our government. Of course, you represent our government, the embassy. And number two, the Kenya Hajj Mission, you know, for not preparing adequately. Like, for example, some of the cases we had from people who were there. We don't know the facts of the matter. We've not interrogated it. For example, say like you have 4 latrines to serve 400 people. You know, you have only 4 toilets to serve 400 people. There's no ambulance. There's no proper, adequate medical facilities to address any medical concerns that are coming. So basically, there are a number of issues that we've been hearing. I've not witnessed, I've not experienced, but we've been hearing about it. So I don't know, have they reached your desk?
No, for sure. For sure. And for me, Hajj is a personal issue. Because if anything, in my tenure, I want to be remembered, inshallah, for making sure that Hajj is straight. For this year, maybe I can give you some facts and figures. Alhamdulillah, we didn't have any casualty. That's number one. Number two, we only had 1 major injury. Alhamdulillah. as you saw, we lost many brothers and sisters in Hajj from other countries due to the heat wave.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, we were spared. Allah really spared us this time around. But of course, I've had the issues. But then again, you hear two quarters. One quarter really commends this year's Hajj, saying that this is probably the best. With their issues happen pale, they're saying that this is probably the best Hajj they've attended. But of course, we also have
areas of improvement.
And we also have other parties who are actually saying that they're not naysayers per se, they're actually lending their voice because they believe there is improvement that can be done. And this is the conversation that we want to have. We've spoken to all religious sectors, including government, including foreign affairs, and I think we need to have what we can call a broad-based approach towards sanitizing Hajj. Whatever positives were recorded this year, we can correct the negatives in the incoming years. For this year especially, we had issues with the sleeping arrangements and the toilet, and that's a key issue because you want to really focus on your ibadah, and if these are things that are really sticking out, then it really messes you up. But inshallah, we are already having discussions as it stands now. And
for next year's Hajj?
For next year's. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, by the time Hajj was done, they convened a meeting the following day to plan for next year's Hajj. That's beautiful. So we are also taking cue, and we are welcoming, and SUPKEM is also welcoming improvements, ideas, suggestions that can nourish and improve Hajj, because Hajj is a collective effort. It is a collective effort. The entire embassy cannot handle Hajj alone. During Hajj, the entire embassy moves to Jeddah, and we redistribute ourselves between Makkah and Medina. That's how important Hajj is for us. But with the proper dialogue and communication and best practices and automation, then inshallah we should be able to experience better Hajjs, inshallah.
Inshallah, that's beautiful. Inshallah, we're looking forward to that, inshallah, right? Another thing, Ya Sheikh, Kenya, a number of institutions really benefited greatly from CSR projects from Saudi-based companies. We experienced lots of donations in the previous years. Something that with time slowed down. It didn't come in as frequent. It didn't, the support to the religious institutions, talk of mosques, talk of the orphanages, talk of madrasas and all that. It's not as it was. Right. I really do not know where the issue is. I don't understand, but I don't know. I really wish we could go back there. Is there a hope for us to go back there?
Most def. And my brother, allow me to say, and my disclaimer again is, Kullil Hakka law kana murran. We have to say it. We've had projects, and we've had our brothers and sisters from the Gulf, from Saudi Arabia, funding projects, and money has just disappeared. This has happened. Right? You promise heaven and deliver, right? Rock. You promise a mosque or a madrasa this size and deliver a shanty. It's not right. It's not right, because Saudi Arabia, whatever monies are coming in, are designated for either zakah or alms. Right? Sadaqah. So the intention by the funders is not met by the implementers. So there's a mismatch. We've had cases where funds have been redirected to us as Kenyans, and we have embezzled. Okay? We have to be clear. We have to be honest. However difficult it is to say, but we have to be honest. So if I'm Saudi, let me redirect my money where I know it will not be embezzled. Are we together? So we have to really fix our institutions, right? We can't be mtu ametoa pesa ya zaka ama ni sadaka, iko na intention, kama ni sadaka tuljari ya kisima nini, ukipewa usichezee.
I'm sure these people are known. What's stopping the government from reaching out and
this is what we are trying to and this is what we are telling the kingdom, that whenever you want to channel these resources, then they have to be channeled through the government for accountability purposes. All right. So there are various aspects we are discussing, either rechanneling the funds through the government or through the Saudi embassy. Maybe they can start a charitable trust where they can easily do all the QS and all. For me, tuogope Mungu. No, let's be clear and let's be honest with each other. So we have to be very honest with each other and make sure that whatever funds are coming in are used in the right way. So if you are a benefactor in Saudi, you want to work with a credible institution, right? The other day we had a meeting with SUPKEM, with the committee, the Jamia committee, and they raised the issue as well. And I said, let's have proper structures, let's have proper accountability, where let's do a trial and error, because we have to rebuild the trust. The trust has gone.
Oh,
and I've spoken to various institutions. Trust has gone with our institutions.
That is bad.
It's unfortunate.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sheikh, Ambassador, we know these people. You
Right.
know these people. I don't know them, but
Right.
you know them.
Right.
Why? Because you can always track. You say a particular donor in Saudi
Right.
said, I donated, let's say, $2 million to
Right.
this institution.
Right.
But again, I did not get the results
Value
as
for
I
money.
wanted.
Right.
So you know this institution.
Right.
You have the paper trail. You have the documentation.
Right.
Why not ask the government to take action?
Right.
Because, I mean, we cannot allow few characters to spoil for the great few, for the great majority.
Absolutely. And what Sheikh Faisal, I want us to focus on, inshallah, is preventative as opposed to curative. Okay? What's done is done. Okay? But going forward, any funds, inshallah, coming from Saudi Arabia, and I've been honest with them. I've told them, let's have a conversation, even not with the embassy, just have a conversation with the proper channel, be it treasury. Anything that needs to be documented has to be documented to the last brick. Are we together? So we have to really make sure that we have a lasting solution. We have to make sure that these things don't happen again. It's happened with various countries. I mean, state of Qatar, Kuwait, they've given funds and some have not been utilized in the right channel.
Cannot be accounted for.
Not work is substandard, all right? Projects are overpriced, okay?
Wow.
And again, we have to be honest with ourselves because ile kazi nimepewa ni jukumu, all right? I don't want, staki kesho niulizwe, hizi pesa zilitoka, you did not. The fact that I'm a Kenyan leader sitting in Saudi, tayari jukumu lishaingia. Are we together? So I will not allow.
True.
And I have to be unequivocal and honest about it. I will not allow. And I will also not allow, well, it's not my mandate, but we have had these discussions with Saudi Arabia that whatever funds need to be channeled, at least let it be done through structured means. Let your embassy sitting in Kenya know, all right? If it's quantity surveying, BOQs, bill of quantities, all of these things have to be structured well so that whoever is giving money from the other end knows that it's going towards the right cause.
Inshallah, Allah, we hope for the best, inshallah. With you and what we've said, Allah, we hope for the best,
Inshallah.
Right. So finally, Yasha,
No.
we have a lot of graduates from University of Medina,
Right.
And a lot of people have the urge or would wish to go and study from this prestigious University of Medina.
Right.
There's another one in Kassim,
Right.
The university there.
Right.
So there are a number of established, nice
Right.
Islamic institutions
Absolutely.
in Saudi Arabia that people, a number of people would love to go and study there.
Right.
But unfortunately, because of their policies and
Right.
their intake policies, they cannot take everybody.
Absolutely.
So it's only a few who are selected.
Absolutely.
But again, at the same time, we also have institutions here.
Right.
So is there a way that could find some sort of a working relationship
Right.
between those institutions,
Right.
the universities, and the universities in this country, and the higher learning institutions,
Brilliant.
to try and find a way to get whatever is being taught there?
Right. To be taught here. Wallahi, mashallah, your question is so serendipitous. Simply because we'll have 5 deans from 5 universities in Medina landing in the country on 27th.
Wow. Of this coming month?
Yes, inshallah.
Nice.
A university like the University of Medina, which I visited, beautiful city, beautiful university, has an alumni in Kenya of 610 students from undergrad to postgrad, PhD level, and the sorts. As it stands this year, they have 131 students at
From
Medina
Kenya.
University, from Kenya, fully sponsored.
Yeah, 100%.
Kila kitu, mashallah.
Ticket and all that, yeah.
Everything. Yani, subhanallah, khairi kubwa. But things have changed because the kingdom is going digital. So they've automated everything. Applications that used to be done physically and dropped and passed to the embassy. Now every student in Kenya has an equal opportunity
to apply, and you succeed on merit. Kitambo, you will say maybe embassy tafanya hivi. Sasa everything is done online. Jitete. Are we together? But
to borrow what you said, I think that's the way forward. If Muhammad will not go to the mountain shall come to Muhammad. So, inshallah, especially with the stakeholders, the education stakeholders, this is a conversation we need to have with them. How then can we mainstream some of these institutions here? How then can we ensure that whatever they're teaching there is also mainstreamed here, so that you don't have to incur, we can cut that cost by educating our brothers and sisters here as opposed to incurring an extra cost. So I think, Yasin, that's a very credible idea, and bismillah, it's something that you need to, and we need to have a discussion with.
Even digitizing, I mean, you mentioned about something very important about digitizing. I mean, what's
can do online
classes?
Absolutely.
Crash courses?
Absolutely. Things have changed. The world has moved, the trajectory is now going and inshallah, these are some of the discussions that we need to have with them. And we will have with them and see how we can nourish and build that brotherhood going forward.
Your Excellency Ambassador.
Naam.
Thanks so much.
Jazakallah khair.
Shukran. Thanks so much for
Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for coming to the studio.
Jazakallah
khair. You have an nyumbani.
Asante sana.
And all the best, inshallah.
Thank you so much.
Anything else we can do, count it down, inshallah.
Bismillah.
But at the end of the day, what we're looking at is to make Kenya great.
Absolutely.
Kenya's forever been great.
Kenya is already great.
So we need to make it greater.
This is the greatest country on earth.
Allah Akbar.
Quite strategic.
Yes.
We're open for business. A very thriving democracy. A very vibrant youth.
The religious freedom you get,
religious freedom you get, media freedom you get. So it's a country that really has the right ingredients for posterity, and inshallah we ask for Allah's guidance and mercy na good leadership. Bas mambo yatakuwa salama.
Shukran. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we're wrapping up tonight's show here on Live Real Talk. You had it straight from the horse's mouth. I mean, amazing gentleman. He is spewing wisdom, young, youthful, energetic ambassador that we have in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We cannot hope or think of anything but just goodness that should be coming our way, inshallah. So see you next week, same place, same time. My name is Feisal Kassim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome to Baitul Hikmah International Integrated Group of Schools, where tradition meets innovation in a nurturing Muslim-based environment.